Okay, again, my name is Stephen Kaplan. I think most of you may know me, but I am originally from this area. I went to school here and at Georgia Tech. Got a degree in chemical engineering. I worked in industry for a number of years. I was in other parts of the country. I decided, excuse me, to come back here to Augusta and work at Savannah Riverside. Worked there for a number of years, and I ran businesses here. And during all this time, I've been working on my own personal spiritual development. I work in areas of forgiveness. I study radical forgiveness. I can help people with that. I help people with ascension, with performance, and other things. And through it all, I've realized the great human potential that we all have. Today, I'm going to speak about the soul of money. And it's a book by Lynn Twist. Here's the book. You can see my book is kind of worn. I've read it a number of times. I've shared it with other people. I've given it away, so forth. It's very valuable to me. There's a story behind it. I had read the book, like I say, a number of times, and I came here when Reverend Dan first came back, first started. And I had heard he was here, so I came in to see him, and I was late. And I heard him talking, and I said, boy, that sounds real familiar. I know what he's talking about. I know that sounds like the soul of money. And sure enough, he was talking about this book when I walked in the door. I was shocked, really, at the synchronicity of it all. Of course, I talked to him later. I don't know if you know, Dan was a prosperity teacher, and he very, very much had high value for this book. We did a book study on it and so forth. So I thought it was a good time that we revisit it. So this is from John 10:10. I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. So this was from Jesus quite a number of years ago, of course. But I think he understood a concept that we know very well here, is that there is this huge abundance all around us. This universe is so big. It's, as far as we can tell, it's infinite. We can't measure it. But abundance is everywhere on this planet. There's species that are still being discovered. There's so much life on this planet. And all that life is being taken care of. All that life lives abundantly. Except for mankind. We seem to have a problem with that. And Lynn talks about this in the book. She introduces this concept of scarcity and toxic myths about scarcity. The first toxic myth, there's not enough. There's not enough to go around. Everyone can't make it. There's too many people. Somebody is going to be left out. There's not enough. There's not enough food. There's not enough water. There's not enough resources. There's not enough money. This myth tells us, and we believe it deep inside ourselves, don't we? That there's not enough. Now, what does that do to the person? When you really believe that there isn't enough, It creates fear within you. Anxiety, oh my gosh, well, if there's not enough, then I need to get mine. I need to take care of my people that I care about. All right, so maybe somebody else suffers. Well, sorry, but there's not enough. I don't feel good about that. Of course we don't. We want everybody abundantly, but it just can't be, right? Somebody has to be left out. This deficiency reflects on how we conduct our lives. We treat people on the basis of their value, of what they can do for us, their value of how much money they have or what they can give us, instead of who they are truly within themselves, their internal character, the things that are truly important. Of course, this is not true, but we believe it's true. We've been programmed to believe that there's not enough. Second toxic myth, more is better. So if there's not enough, then the logical progression from that is, well, more is better. More is better is the culture that drives us to be competitive, to do things that don't necessarily make life more valuable. In fact, it seems like it may be less valuable, even though you're accumulating more and more and more. It's a chase with no end, a competition with no winner. It's like being on the hamster wheel. You keep going over and over, getting more and more and more. And you can't get off. It's almost like an addiction. And as we all know, addictions are really tough once you get stuck in them. The unquestioned, unchecked drive for more creates this unsustainable economy. More is better defines us by our financial success, not by who we are, really. This culture of more is better can block access to a more meaningful life. It may seem really incredible, but this is true, that somebody that maybe makes $10 million a year wants to make more. That's not enough. I need to make $50 million a year or more. That doesn't make any sense at all to the average person. But even people that have wealth are caught into this more is better. I mean, today we can talk about millionaires. We can even talk about billionaires now. Trillionaires. And approaching trillionaires, yeah. But even 1 billion. Does anybody know how big 1 billion is? Can anybody fathom that number? We throw it around like it's, just a few trillion, a few billion, no big deal, right? Can you count to 1 billion? Has anybody tried? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know how long it will take us? Anybody? Over 30 years. And you don't get to eat or sleep or anything. You just got to keep counting. 30 years. How can you spend that much money in a lifetime? You can't. Not on reasonable things. And yet that person that has $1 billion wants to make more and more and more. And a trillion is just unfathomable. What can you do with that? Now, I'm not saying that somebody that has money or is wealth is negative. That's not a negative thing. As Jesus has pointed out, and I'm saying it here, everybody should be able to live abundantly. Everyone. No one should be left out. But more is better is not doing us very much good. Now, Lynn saw this quite a bit in her work, where she dealt with people who, she was doing fundraiser. She raised money for the Hungary, and she discovered through different ways, and you read about it in the book, that wealth can be like a prison for people. They get stuck in there and they can't get out. They feel like they're obligated to be the way they are. This happened to me personally when I was young. I had a friend. Well, he was more of an acquaintance, but his father knew my father, and so we met each other, and I talked to him. Anyway, the family was very, very wealthy. He had a very, very fast car, beautiful car, and he let me ride in it. And we rode in it, and I was very impressed, and we were talking about different things, and I just said, well, it must be nice to have so much money. He said, no, not really. What? What do you mean? You have everything you need, don't you? He said, well, yeah. Well, what's wrong with it? Well, you got to worry about things. Kidnapping. When you have it, people want to take it away. It can get real dangerous out there. So that really took me aback, because I was, yeah, of course you got to make lots of money and that's going to be a wonderful thing, but I realized maybe that's not the best way to be. More is better is not necessarily better. And then toxic myth number 3. That is just the way it is. There's not enough, more is better, and that's just the way it is. Nothing we could do about it. There's no way out. It's not fair, but that's just the way it is, and so we have to play the game the way it is, even if we don't like it. This particular myth may be the hardest one to deal with, because you can always make a case for it. It's just the way it is, so nothing I can do. But it leads to a feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, resignation, cynicism. Those with power, money, feel justified and encouraged, even entitled to exploit other people. Because that's just the way it is. It's going to be that way. Personally, we can feel bad about it. We do feel bad about others. But we justify that bad feeling with, well, that's just the way it is. I'm resigned to that. But is it really true? Just the way it is? Of course not. Things can change. Things should change. And Lynn attempts to show us in this book how we can do that. And the concept is very simple. It's something we're doing all the time, particularly here at Unity, and that's change our consciousness. We are all about elevating our consciousness, becoming more conscious of what's happening within ourselves and with others. We are doing that. And she tries to show that with some pretty interesting examples. And one of those is as I said, she does fundraising. She goes to a place in Harlem that is very poor. The place is obviously run down, the roof is leaking, and people are obviously not very wealthy. In fact, they look very poor. And she's to give a presentation, and she's not too encouraged by it, but she gives a presentation anyway, and not really expecting very much, because she's asking for donations for this hunger project. And she's surprised, because I guess they really liked what she said, and they gave what they could, even if it was just a few dollars. And she was stunned that once one person started giving, they all joined in. It was a small amount of money, but she felt so good about that. And it was in stark contrast to the next day when she goes to a high-rise CEO of a big major food company. in a high-rise, this plush, huge office. Her presentation there is very short. He really doesn't want to hear it. He just gives her a check. Thank you very much. And she walks out. Doesn't feel too good about that. It's a huge check. It's $50,000. That's amazing. Why don't I feel great about this? She realized there's something wrong here. That person gave me that money, but he gave it for his own purposes. His goal was a PR for the company. They wanted to show how, great they were in the community by helping people that are hungry. She felt bad about it. And what she did was mail the check back to the CEO. It's hard to believe anybody would do that, but she did it because she felt so bad. That money had an energy, a soul, if you will. And it was in direct contrast to the money that she collected the day before. There was so much less. She did meet the CEO a few years later after he had retired. He sought her out. And he told her the story that he was stunned that she sent the check back. But it made him think. And he came to her and said, I really want to give this time. I really mean to help people. I want to do it now. So the soul of money, what we attach to the energy of money is important. As we change our consciousness, what we're doing is we're remembering, aren't we, that we are truly spiritual beings first. Yes, we are human. Yes, we have to live in this material world. But it is spirit that is so important. Spirit is why we are here. We need to remember that. And we need to remember that we are children of God. And that we are all one. We are all part of the same one. And that what we do to another person does in fact affect everybody. And it even affects ourselves. And that's a really hard concept. Jesus tried to teach us that, and mankind has not gotten it yet. He said, love your enemies. Oh my God, how crazy is that? You can't do that. Jesus, come on. Give us a break. But it matters. Now, those of you that know me know I like to talk about technical type things too. So if you bear with me, I'd like to become a little bit technical here. It does have a point. So I'd like to go into just a little bit of science and ask this question. Does anybody know what the most abundant element in the universe is? Anybody? It's not a test. It's hydrogen. Hydrogen is the tiniest little element. H2 is the molecule. And it is by far the most abundant element in this universe. It is huge. And as you know, well, you should know, that the universe is more or less infinite. And therefore, the amount of hydrogen much more than we could ever imagine. And it's very abundant here on this planet. You know where it is? In water. It's called H2O, right? Hydrogen is everywhere. It's in water, but it's in you. It's in your DNA. It's all around us. It is a building block of life. So why am I talking about hydrogen? Some of you may not know this. Probably most don't know. But we can make electricity out of hydrogen. Yes, we can. We've been doing it for a number of years. We figured out, it's called a fuel cell. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the Apollo program that went to the moon, how did they get electricity in their spacecraft? Fuel cells. They used a fuel cell. And that energized and gave them enough of what they needed. The fuel cell is an amazing thing to me. Sorry about the feedback. It's a device that converts something like hydrogen, but it could be something else, a fuel, into electrical energy. And here's a picture of one. And what you have is hydrogen coming in on one side, and on the other side we have electricity, and also we have water. So water is a product of this process. Now, where do you get the hydrogen? From water. So water breaks down into hydrogen, produces electricity, and comes out as water. And not only water, but pure water. You could drink this water. And in fact, on Apollo missions, they did. And by the way, they're doing the Artemis program. Heard of that? Maybe we're going to go to the moon. I don't know. Are they using a fuel cell for that? Yeah. It's a little bit more developed. They're using what's called a regenerative fuel cell. And what they do is they take the water that comes out, they break it down back into hydrogen and re-feed it into the fuel cell. So it just regenerates electricity. And they're drinking the water and all that too. An amazing process. Now, I'm bringing this up because when we talk about scarcity, one of the things that we're really afraid about right now is what? Power. We are afraid that we won't have any power because of AI and all the other different things we can talk about. I don't want to go into all the details of that. But we are not using this resource that is so abundant. And by the way, it's also within the earth. They are now starting to tap pure hydrogen coming out of the earth itself. And water is within the earth too, that we didn't know about. We're rethinking the way the earth was formed now because there's so much water there that we didn't know. So much hydrogen there. Of course, I got a little bit upset a few years ago when we had a hurricane here and we didn't have power. And that really bothered me. I don't know about you guys. Wouldn't it be nice if we could feed our hydrogen to create the power in our homes? We could. But the will isn't there to do that. There was a big hydrogen push about 20 years ago. This is showing a filling station that can fill a gas tank with hydrogen. So fuel cells can run cars, and they have and they do. And our country, though, isn't interested. Other countries are. They work just as good as a battery, but you don't have to recharge it. So you can fill up your tank in 5 minutes. Again, we don't have it here, but it is something that could be if we could decide that we wanted hydrogen. The problem is that we need clean hydrogen. In other words, it's been manufactured so that there is no carbon released to the atmosphere. So it is a little bit expensive now to get that. But there's something happening real amazing right now, just startles me. Did you know that there is water all around you? Here in the Southeast, we know it very well, don't we? What's it called? Humidity. Humidity is a measure of water in the air. And this group in Belgium has figured out a way to take water, humidity out of the air and get hydrogen using a solar cell to break the water down into hydrogen and oxygen. So they are producing hydrogen with no mechanical parts. That's like a miracle to me. You mean I can just put a solar cell out and all of a sudden it will start producing hydrogen? And if I had the technology, I could just plug it into a fuel cell and I could power my house or my car or whatever. I think most people care about their phone right now. That's what's most important, right? This is miraculous. The things about hydrogen, there's a lot going on in research, but these guys are showing it commercially right now. They're trying to prove it over in Belgium. And we'll see what actually happens. Will this change the world? I don't know. Will hydrogen become our primary energy source? I think it will in the future. I think it should be sooner than later, though. That's my opinion. Especially with the issues that we could talk about, which we won't today. But what I wanted to get across to you is that the abundance is there, but you're not aware of it. It's always been there. And somehow Jesus knew. He figured it out. We can live abundantly right now. We don't have to wait for some future time. We have the ability to live abundantly as he taught. And I invite you to do that now. Thank you very much.